Recently mobilized Russian soldiers are decrying inhumane conditions, weapons shortages and mistreatment by officers, according to video published by the independent news website The Insider on Wednesday. Footage of new recruits sleeping on the floor, being armed with outdated rifles and ordered to source their own supplies appeared almost immediately after President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization last month. Around 500 troops gathered in western Russia's Belgorod region near the Ukrainian border with no training and no knowledge of where they were being deployed, the latest video's authors said. "Nobody needs us," a voice behind the camera, flanked by uniformed soldiers on a train platform, can be heard saying. "We've lived in animal conditions for a week," the voice said, adding that the soldiers had received no material support or financial compensation since being called up. "We've spent an absurd amount of money just to feed ourselves, not to mention on ammunition." The Insider reported earlier that the soldiers' wives were forced to spend as much as $2,500 on equipping their husbands. A website set up to answer questions on mobilization states that requiring soldiers to buy their own equipment is illegal. The same website encourages soldiers to bring their own night vision goggles and drones to the battlefield. It was not clear where the mobilized soldiers depicted in the video were ultimately deployed. Western military analysts predict that the Kremlin's rush to deploy new recruits to the front lines would result in high death rates, troop unreliability and low morale. Several recruits were reported to have died before deployment. Yevgenia Kuzavanova has been raising money to buy everything from first aid kits to instant noodles for Russian forces in Ukraine. Her online group Help for Soldiers, which is based in Russia's Sverdlovsk region near the Ural Mountains, is one of many civilian movements frantically gathering basic equipment for an under-equipped Russian army. "This is our personal desire. This is our duty," Kuzavanova said in an exchange on messaging service WhatsApp. "We are patriots of our country. The supply problems suffered by the Russian armed forces are the result of its losses over 7 months of fighting in Ukraine, as well as corruption and mismanagement, according to experts. And, as tens of thousands more men are conscripted into the military under partial mobilization, the need for groups like Help for Soldiers is only likely to grow. Due to the mobilization, everything that we would like to buy for the next shipments has catastrophically sold out," Help for Soldiers posted Thursday. "We decided to buy as many warm clothes as possible while they are still available." Despite Russia having the world's 5th biggest defense budget, estimated at about $66 billion a year, the work of these grassroots groups reveals how those sent to the front lines often lack basic supplies, including food, warm clothes and medicine. Unverified video footage that emerged last week showed an officer telling newly mobilized men to buy their own first aid equipment, including tampons that they could use to staunch bullet wounds. The rush to buy supplies from private dealers in the wake of Russian President Vladimir's announcement of partial mobilization last month has meant the price of military equipment has soared in recent days. The 6B-45 body armor, a staple item among Russia's ground forces that claims to provide protection against a Kalashnikov rifle from as close as 10 meters, was selling over the weekend on online marketplace Avita for $700. "Today our goal is medicines," Help for Soldiers wrote Sunday in a plea to its more than 800 subscribers on its page on Russian social network vKontakte. "We are focusing on dressings, hemostatic agents, very necessary and important, painkillers, weak and strong, cold and cough remedies, antihistamines and anti-shock drugs, often run by women, some of whom have sons, husbands, brothers or fathers fighting in Ukraine. These groups raise money not only by appealing to people's patriotic feelings, but also by relaying pleas and requests from those on the front lines. Tea, coffee, gloves, cellophane or something to protect from the rain. For 15 people or however much you can get. With love," requested one soldier, according to a screenshot of a WhatsApp message posted last month in the Russian Spring Z group on vKontakte. In addition to medicines and basic supplies, these groups often also send photos and letters, sometimes from children, in an apparent attempt to boost morale. The soldiers also write letters in response, Kuzavanova said. Though crowdfunding has long played a role in warfare, it has traditionally been limited to providing soldiers with non-essentials, according to Ben Hodges, a former general who led U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. But Russia's crowdfunding efforts reach way beyond that. The fighters have asked for a weather station and barometer, a drone, a diesel generator, body armor, 10 pieces of camouflage netting, a camp bed, 15 lots of winter clothing, and 200 polypropylene bags. Another crowdfunding group, We Don't Give Up on Our Own, Help Our Soldiers, posted last week on their vKontakte page. Shortages of key pieces of equipment underscore the systemic supply problems faced by Russia's armed forces, Hodges said. It's unacceptable that a modern army wouldn't have drones, thermal imagers and generators. They don't have a culture of readiness, Hodges said. Russian forces have suffered a series of military reversals in recent weeks, being forced out of Ukraine's Kharkiv region and having to retreat from the strategic town of Lyman, a key Moscow foothold in the north of Ukraine's Donetsk region. Photos and video footage from the towns and villages vacated by Russia showed large amounts of abandoned ammunition, equipment and other supplies. A partial mobilization decree signed by Putin last month was widely seen as an attempt to solve Moscow's manpower problems and shore up defenses in the occupied regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. Now there will be more work, so every contribution is important. Crowdfunding group Reliable Homefront posted on their vKontakte page shortly after Putin's announcement. Reliable Homefront, which is run by women, is aggressively patriotic and uses cartoon illustrations to appeal to its 1,150 members. The group also runs online auctions in which it sells everything from French designer jackets and Soviet badges to crocheted children's toys and authentic Russian army ration packs, signed by a soldier, to raise money. The proceeds of the auctions have been used to buy a thermal imaging camera, 30 first aid kits and 4 pairs of night vision goggles, according to the group. That one of the world's most well-funded armies lacks such basic equipment suggests the existence of significant corruption and mismanagement, according to Sam Cranny-Evans, a military expert at the Royal United Services Institute think tank in London. There's things like socks, basic equipment that Russian soldiers should have but don't. And that comes back to a culture of corruption that seems to come from the very top, Cranny-Evans said. In further evidence of possible military graft, a RUSI report published earlier this year found that personal equipment and body armor introduced as part of Russia's 2012 Ratnik program was widely available to buy on Avita. Even once they have obtained supplies, volunteer groups still face the challenging task of actually getting it to the soldiers on the front line. Many rely on supporters making trips to the Ukrainian border, or send the items that they have purchased in packages to the western Russian city of Belgorod. It is becoming unsafe to travel from Belgorod. The war has already crept up to the border, and residents constantly hear artillery, the Reliable Home Front group posted last week. But, for the sake of the guys, our girls hit the road and handed everything over, the group said about a recent volunteer trip to the border city. Our fearless girls are the ones keeping the Russian world going. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can be alerted to our next video. We'll see you again soon on Warzone.